with other people with balls and lots of traffic, the progress they made was pretty mind-boggling. And so we don't for one moment think of that as babysitting.
How he lives is sad. Charlie Cooke, at 83 years old, sits in quiet exile across the Atlantic. Once hailed as Chelsea royalty during the glamorous Kings Road era, he now lives largely forgotten by the club he helped define. No statue stands in his honour at Stamford Bridge. No song echoes his name from the terraces, while his best mate Peter Osgood was immortalised in bronze as the eternal King of Chelsea. Cooke remains the uncrowned prince, a genius erased by time and his own choices. But why? How does a man once described as being able to dribble inside a phone box end up as one of Chelsea's most forgotten legends? The answer lies in regret, alcohol, and a career defined by creating magic for others whilst denying himself the glory that secures a place in history. Picture Stamford Bridge in the late 1960s, the Kings Road years. Fashion collided with football, pop stars mingled with players. Chelsea was not just a team, it was a cultural movement, and at the heart of it all was Charlie Cooke, a Scottish winger with feet so quick and balance so perfect that defenders could not get near him. The fans worshipped him. They said he could dribble inside a phone box. Such was his close control and technical brilliance. Cooke was named Chelsea Player of the Year 3 times. That puts him alongside Gianfranco Zola in terms of individual recognition. Yet today, in 2025, there is no memorial to his genius. No bronze figure stands guard outside the shed end. No hospitality suite bears his name. No chant celebrates his contributions. Compare this to Peter Osgood, who has a statue. Compare it to Bobby Tambling, who has a suite named after him. Compare it to Zola, who was voted the greatest Chelsea player ever by the fans. Even Eden Hazard, a modern icon, is sung about with reverence. But Charlie Cooke? Silence. He gave Chelsea grace, vision, and glory. Yet he walked away with nothing but that silence. Documentaries now refer to him as one of the club's most forgotten legends. How does that happen? How does a 3-time Player of the Year fade into obscurity? The answer begins with the role he chose to play on the pitch. Charlie Cooke was a schemer. That was the word used in the 1960s to describe the midfield playmaker, the man who dictated tempo and created chances. It was a label of high praise, but for Cooke, it became a cage. He admits now, decades later, that he allowed the media narrative to infiltrate his mind. Newspapers called him the midfield general, the architect, the schemer, and so he believed that was all he should be. He thought his job was to create opportunities for strikers like Peter Osgood and Ian Hutchinson, not to score himself. He ignored finishing entirely. In his own words, he allowed the headlines about being the team schemer to get into his head, with the result that he neglected his ability to score goals. Looking back now, he says with regret, "I thought I was a better player than that." That sentence carries the weight of a lifetime of reflection. It is the lament of an artist who realises he only painted backgrounds, leaving the focal points to others. The statistics tell the story. Across 373 appearances for Chelsea, Cooke scored just 30 goals. That is a rate of 0.8 goals per game. Compare that to Peter Osgood, who scored 150 goals in 380 games, a rate of 0.39. Compare it to Zola, another playmaker and dribbler like Cooke, who managed 80 goals in 312 games, a rate of 0.8. Even Eden Hazard, a creative winger in the modern era, scored 110 goals in 352 appearances, a rate of 0.31. Cooke had the ability to score. He had the balance, the technique, the composure in tight spaces, but he lacked the intent. He compartmentalised his role so strictly that he actively chose not to shoot. He deferred to others, believing that was what schemers did, and therein lies the tragedy. Goals are the currency of football memory. Assists, especially in an era before detailed data tracking, are ephemeral. They fade. They are mentioned by aficionados, but forgotten by the masses. By embracing the schemer identity so completely, Cooke inadvertently facilitated his own erasure from the record books. The 1970 FA Cup final replay against Leeds United at Old Trafford captures this perfectly. That match is remembered as one of the most brutal games in English football history, a war of attrition between two sides willing to kick each other into submission. With Chelsea trailing and the game descending into chaos, it was Cooke who provided the spark spark of genius. He picked up the ball in midfield, evaded the aggressive Leeds press with his trademark elegance, and delivered a sublime pass. It was a chipped ball of exquisite weight and trajectory, bypassing the Leeds defence and finding Peter Osgood perfectly. Osgood's diving header to equalise became one of the most iconic images in FA Cup history. Chelsea went on to win, but who is remembered? Osgood. The header is immortalised. The assist is a footnote. Cooke was the architect of that victory, yet because he was the provider and not the finisher, his contribution is relegated to the memories of purists rather than the general public. The song is remembered as Osgood's, even though it was Cooke who made the ball sing. This is the sadness, the disparity between the quality of the contribution and the permanence of the recognition. Cooke chased the ball and made it dance, but history celebrates the striker who put it in the net. And now, at 83, he looks back and thinks about all the times he could have shot, all the moments he could have been selfish, all the goals he denied himself in service of a team identity that ultimately underachieved. The second pillar of Charlie Cooke's regret is the culture he lived in. The Chelsea team of the late 1960s and early 1970s was wild. Glamorous, yes, but also out of control. They were not just footballers, they were celebrities. They frequented the boutiques and bars of the King's Road, rubbing shoulders with rock stars and actors. It was intoxicating. It was also destructive. Cooke describes the team atmosphere as out of control, wild and crazy. There was a drinking culture that permeated everything. Players egged each other on to consume more alcohol. It was competitive, it was systemic, and it cost them trophies. Looking back, Cooke is brutally honest. We were underachievers, and that was our own fault, he says. Unlike some veterans who view those hard-drinking days with nostalgia, Cooke sees them as a professional failure. He explicitly links the alcohol culture to Chelsea's inability to perform on the biggest occasions. He points to the 1967 FA Cup final against Tottenham, which Chelsea lost. He points to the 1972 League Cup final against Stoke City, another defeat. In both matches, Chelsea were the superior side on paper, yet they failed to deliver. Cooke attributes this directly to their lack of discipline and self-control. They were playing amateur football with professional talent, but the damage was not just to trophies. It was personal. Cooke admits that the drinking affected his memory. In interviews now, he asks questions like, is Bobby Brown still alive? There is a disconnect, a haziness surrounding those years. He recalls specific instances of drowning sorrows, like after a defeat with the Scottish national team, when the squad retreated to drink heavily. The lost years are just that, lost. The memories are blurred, fragmented, clouded by a decade lived in chemically induced euphoria and subsequent recovery. For a man whose career was defined by split-second vision and precision, the erosion of those memories adds a tragic dimension to his retirement. He remembers the regret of the lifestyle more vividly than the joy of the victories. This is not nostalgia, this is melancholy. Cooke looks back and sees wasted potential, wasted time. He believes Chelsea could have won far more than 2 major trophies if they had possessed the discipline of modern professionals. I would be a bit smarter, more self-controlled. Not so willing, he says, imagining a second chance at that life. But there are no second chances. The culture was self-reinforcing. To be a Chelsea player in that era was to be a drinker. To opt out was to ostracise yourself. Cooke was a willing participant, and now he pays the cost of that social contract. The fun they had was borrowed against their future legacies. They traded dynasty for debauchery, and in the quiet years of his 80s, Cooke is left counting the cost. Return now to Stamford Bridge. Walk around the stadium, look at the statues, the plaques, the names on the walls. You will find Peter Osgood immortalised in bronze. You will find suites named after Ron Harris and Bobby Tambling. You will find tributes to modern legends like Frank Lampard and Didier Drogba. You will not find Charlie Cooke. There is no statue, no tribute, no song. This absence is not an oversight. It is a consequence. Cooke left England in 1976 to play in the North American Soccer League. He settled in Cincinnati, Ohio, and he never came back permanently. While his contemporaries stayed in the UK, becoming pundits, coaches, and match-day hosts, Cooke built a life on the other side of the Atlantic, out of sight, out of mind. In his absence, the narrative of Chelsea's history was solidified without him. He was not there to attend the dinners, to shake hands with new ownership, to remind people of his importance. And so the club forgot. They let his legend fade. This is the concrete sadness, the institutional neglect. For a man who was voted Player of the Year 3 times, who played 373 matches, who provided moments of magic that defined an era, there is nothing. He walked away with nothing but silence. The exile is both geographic and symbolic. Cooke exists now in the memories of those who were there, the fans who saw him play, the teammates who shared the pitch. But for the new generation of Chelsea supporters, he is invisible, a ghost, the uncrowned king of the King's Road. But here is where the story shifts. Here is where sadness gives way to something else. Survival, reinvention, triumph. In 1984, Charlie Cooke co-founded Coerver Coaching alongside Alf Galustian. It was inspired by the philosophy of Dutch coach Wiel Kover, and it revolutionised the way football skills are taught. This was not a modest retirement hobby. This was a global empire. Today, Coerver Coaching operates in over 47 countries. More than 1.5 million kids and coaches have participated in the program. It has been a partner of Adidas for over 20 years. It has received endorsements from World Cup winning managers like Vicente Del Bosque and legends like Jurgen Klinsmann. Charlie Cooke, the forgotten legend of Chelsea, became a pioneer of football education. He took the natural genius that defined his playing career and systematized it, teaching millions of young players the technical foundations he possessed instinctively. In doing so, he created a legacy far more enduring than any statue. He still works. At 83, Cooke runs a successful football school in Cincinnati. He is hands-on, coaching kids, refining their technique, passing on the magic. Testimonials from parents describe him as outstanding, a coach who has improved the skill level of players across generations. In Ohio, he is not forgotten. He is revered. He is a pillar of the local community. His son, Chaz Cooke, is involved in the business, ensuring the next chapter of the legacy. This is not a man who faded into bitterness or poverty. This is a man who evolved, who survived the destructive culture of his playing days. In America, he is celebrated. The club he gave his best years to has no memorial for him, but the kids he coaches in Ohio carry his teachings onto every pitch they play on. He may not have a statue at Stamford Bridge, but his legacy lives in every young player who has learned the Coerver method. Charlie Cooke is 83 years old. He lives in Cincinnati, surrounded by family, still teaching the game he loves. He has built a global coaching empire, influenced millions, and secured financial stability. By any objective measure, his life is a success. But success and sadness are not mutually exclusive. Cooke carries the weight of regret. He regrets not scoring more. He regrets the drinking culture that blunted his potential and clouded his memories. He regrets that the club he helped define has let him fade into obscurity. These regrets are existential, not material. He is not destitute. He is not broken, but he is melancholic. He looks back at the player he could have been, the trophies Chelsea could have won, the recognition he should have received, and he thinks, I thought I was a better player than that. The sadness is valid. It is the sadness of the counterfactual, the what if. What if he had been more selfish? What if the team had been more disciplined? What if the club had remembered? But sadness does not negate dignity. Charlie Cooke survived when many of his peers did not. George Best succumbed entirely to the lifestyle, his career over by 27. Peter Osgood died at 59. Cooke escaped. He left the Goldfish Bowl of the King's Road and built a new life, a meaningful life. He may not have a statue at Stamford Bridge, but he has something more enduring. He has the respect of those who truly understand the game. He has the gratitude of the players he has coached. He has the quiet satisfaction of knowing he took his genius and passed it on. Charlie Cooke is the Bonnie Prince who never became king. He is the architect who never owned the house. But in his exile, he built a new kingdom, one based on teaching the very skills that made him special. His life is not a tragedy. It is a lesson. It is a lesson in the cost of wasted time, the pain of forgotten glory, and the redeeming power of reinvention. The ghost of Charlie Cooke still dances, not at Stamford Bridge, but in the footwork of millions of young players around the world. And perhaps that is a legacy worth more than bronze.